Hey everyone, and welcome back to Love Hackers. I'm Alex Carter.
And I'm Sophie Tanaka.
We're your dating coaches here to help you navigate the sometimes thrilling, sometimes baffling world of dating. And today we're diving deep into a topic that I feel like often gets glossed over in the dating advice sphere.
Yeah.
It's the role of physical touch, and particularly when it comes to a gesture that can be either incredibly intimate or wildly inappropriate, touching a woman's behind.
Yeah, it's a nuanced area for sure.
For sure.
One that requires, I think, a deep understanding of consent, respect, and really that delicate dance of attraction and boundaries.
Exactly. It's not about following some rigid set of rules, It's about understanding these principles of attraction and connection and then applying them thoughtfully and respectfully. So let's start with the foundation.
Yeah.
Building rapport and trust.
Okay.
You can't just skip to the grand finale without setting the stage first, right?
Absolutely. It's like trying to solve a complex equation without understanding the basic mathematical principles.
Right. You need to lay the groundwork first. And in the context of dating, that groundwork is all about creating a sense of connection and comfort before even thinking about more intimate forms of physical touch.
Okay, so how do we create that foundation? What are the building blocks of rapport and trust, especially when we're talking about physical touch?
Well, one key concept is what we call kino escalation.
Kino escalation.
Which essentially means gradually progressing from non-sexual touch to more intimate gestures.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this gradual progression.
It's about creating a natural flow, a sense of familiarity and comfort through touch.
Okay.
So it could start with something as simple as a light touch on the arm when you're making a point, or gently touching her hand as you compliment her bracelet.
Right.
These subtle gestures, they create a sense of connection without being overly forward or invasive.
So it's not about diving in with a grand romantic gesture. It's about starting small.
Exactly.
And building from there.
Precisely. It's like testing the waters before jumping into the deep end.
Yeah. You want to gauge her reaction, see how she responds to your touch, and adjust your approach accordingly.
Right.
If she tenses up or pulls away, dial it back.
Yeah.
Respect her boundaries and don't force anything.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's all about reading the signals.
Yeah.
Both verbal and nonverbal.
Yeah.
But even before we get to the physical touch part,
Right.
there's the initial conversation, the getting to know you phase.
Right.
What are some tips for navigating those first interactions and creating a spark?
Well, one dating expert recommends asking what he calls the golden question. What's something like you really enjoy?
Okay.
It's a simple question, but it encourages her to open up to share her passions and interests, and it allows you to see her light up as she talks about something she loves.
I love that it shifts the focus away from superficial small talk, and it creates a genuine connection. It shows that you're interested in getting to know her on a deeper level.
Exactly. And another expert who, believe it or not, has quite a bit of experience charming the ladies, emphasizes the power of using a woman's name during those initial interactions.
Wait, were we talking about Johnny Depp here?
That's the one.
Okay.
He might have a bit of a wild side, but he understands the psychology of attraction.
Right.
He says that people are naturally drawn to the sound of their own name.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of personalization, importance, almost like you're singing a song directly to her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying, hey, you look great,
Right.
you'd say, Sarah, you look absolutely stunning in that dress.
Exactly. It's a small detail, but it can make a big difference in creating a sense of intimacy and connection. It shows that you're paying attention, that you see her as an individual, not just another pretty face in the crowd.
Okay, so we're laying the groundwork here, building rapport and trust, before even thinking about getting physical. But what about the digital age?
Right.
How do online interactions change the dynamics of physical touch when you finally meet someone in person?
That's a fantastic question, Alex, and one that deserves its own deep dive. The rise of online dating and social media has fundamentally shifted the dating landscape.
Right.
It's created new opportunities for connection, but also new challenges when it comes to navigating physical intimacy.
Right, because there's a certain level of familiarity that develops online. You might feel like you already know someone, even if you've never actually met face-to-face.
Absolutely. And that online familiarity can definitely influence how you approach physical touch when you finally meet. So let's unpack that dynamic and see how we can navigate it with respect and awareness.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Welcome back to Love Hackers. We're unpacking this often misunderstood world of physical intimacy and dating, exploring how to build trust, read signals, and respect boundaries.
Right, and before we went to, I guess, a commercial break, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
we were diving into this really fascinating question of how online interactions affect our approach to physical touch when we finally meet someone in person.
It's such a crucial aspect of modern dating, right? You think about it, you meet someone on an app, you're messaging back and forth, maybe even video chatting, and a certain level of intimacy develops. You're sharing personal stories, maybe some flirty banter things you wouldn't necessarily say to someone you just met at a bar, right?
Totally. You might even feel like you already know them, even though you've never shared physical space.
Yeah.
So how does that online connection translate into real-life interactions? Does it speed things up when it comes to physical touch?
It can definitely shift the dynamics because you've bypassed some of those initial awkward getting to know you stages, and there's already a foundation of attraction and comfort established, so you might be able to progress more quickly with physical touch than you would with someone you just met at a party.
That makes sense. But it's
Uh-huh.
not like you have a free pass to get touchy-feely just because you've had some steamy text exchanges.
Absolutely not. Consent is still paramount always. It's essential to remember that online personas and real life personalities don't always perfectly align.
Right.
And there's a whole different level of vulnerability when you're physically present with someone.
Right, there's no undo button in real life.
Exactly.
So even if you've been flirting up a storm online, you still need to gauge her comfort level in person, read her cues, and respect her boundaries.
Yeah.
You can't assume that virtual intimacy automatically translates into physical intimacy.
Precisely. It's about being present, paying attention, and responding to the signals she's giving you in the moment. Is she reciprocating your touch? Does she seem relaxed and engaged? If so, you might be able to progress more quickly than you would with someone you just met. But if she seems hesitant or pulls away, respect her space and don't push it.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about established relationships. Let's say you've been dating a woman for a while, you've moved past the initial getting to know you phase, and you're feeling more comfortable with each other. How do you navigate the nuances of physical intimacy in this context?
That's where things get really interesting when you're already dating someone. There's a different level of intimacy and understanding. You've likely already established some physical boundaries and have a sense of what the other person is comfortable with, but it's still not a free-for-all. Consent is always essential, even in a relationship.
So how do you gauge your comfort level when it comes to more intimate forms of touch,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to, well, touching her behind it feels a bit awkward to even talk about it.
It's understandable to feel a bit hesitant about this topic, but it's important to have these conversations openly. And honestly, one way to approach it is by complimenting her in a way that acknowledges her physical attractiveness, but also respects her as a whole person.
Interesting. So instead of just grabbing, you're suggesting starting with a verbal acknowledgement.
Exactly. For example, you could say something like, I love how those jeans hug your curves, or you look amazing in that dress. It really shows off your figure. And then pay attention to her reaction. Does she smile, blush, or does she seem uncomfortable or dismissive?
I see. So it's like testing the waters with a compliment before diving into more physical expressions of attraction.
Precisely, it's about creating a playful, flirtatious vibe while also being respectful and attentive to her response. If she seems receptive, you might be able to take things a step further, but if she doesn't respect her boundaries, and back off.
Makes sense. But even if she is receptive to your compliments and seems comfortable with the direction things are going, it's still important to remember that she's a whole person, not just a body part, right?
Absolutely. One expert who has written extensively about the nuances of sexual intimacy
Hmm.
put it this way. Every square inch of the body is a sensual playground, and many women feel disappointed that so many men focus on only a few corners.
Wow, that's such a powerful quote. It's a great reminder to appreciate and explore the sensuality of her entire body, not just focus on one specific area.
Exactly. It's about seeing her as a multifaceted, sensual being, not just an object of desire. Think about it. You can caress her back, run your fingers through her hair, kiss her neck. There are so many ways to be intimate and show affection that go beyond just touching her behind.
I think it's also important to acknowledge that some women simply don't like having their behinds touched, no matter how attracted they are to you, and that's totally valid. They might have past experiences, personal boundaries, or cultural influences that make them uncomfortable with that particular form of touch.
Absolutely. It's crucial to be sensitive to those individual preferences and respect her boundaries without question. Don't try to pressure her or make her feel bad for having boundaries. A true gentleman understands and respects a woman's right to say no no matter what.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from building rapport to gauging comfort levels to respecting boundaries. But what happens when you move into a more committed relationship like boyfriend and girlfriend? Does that change the dynamics even further?
It absolutely does. As the relationship progresses, the dynamics of physical intimacy naturally evolve. You develop a deeper understanding of each other's desires, preferences, and boundaries, but even in a committed relationship, it's not like all bets are off and anything goes open. Communication, mutual respect, and enthusiastic consent are still crucial for a healthy and fulfilling intimate life.
This is fascinating stuff, Sophie.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much about the complexities of physical intimacy and how to navigate it with respect and sensitivity. But we're running out of time for this segment. Stay tuned because when we come back, we'll delve into how the dynamics of touch shift within the context of an established relationship. Welcome back to Love Hackers. We've been exploring this really delicate dance of physical intimacy and dating. And now we're going to kind of zoom in on how those dynamics shift and evolve when you're in an established relationship.
Yeah, it's a fascinating transition, isn't it? When you move from that initial dating phase into a more committed relationship like boyfriend, girlfriend, there's this deepening of intimacy and understanding. You've
Right.
built a foundation of trust, you've explored each other's boundaries, and there's a sense of security and comfort that allows for a different kind of exploration, I think.
Right. You're no longer tiptoeing around trying to figure out what the other person likes or dislikes.
Right.
You have a shared history, a deeper connection, and that opens up a whole new realm of possibilities when it comes to physical intimacy. But does that mean all bets are off? Like
Right.
once you're officially a couple, anything goes?
Not quite. Even in the most loving and committed relationships, consent and respect are still paramount.
Okay.
It's not about having a free pass to do whatever you want. It's about open communication, understanding each other's evolving desires and boundaries, and making sure you're both on the same page, both physically and emotionally.
So how does that translate into real life interactions?
Yeah.
Let's say you're in a heated moment with your girlfriend and you feel the urge to, well, touch her behind. How do you navigate that impulse in a way that's both passionate and respectful?
I think it's all about context and communication, even in the heat of the moment. Think about it. A playful squeeze or a gentle caress during a passionate kiss can be incredibly intimate and exciting. It's a way of expressing desire, of saying, I want you without words, but it's crucial to be attuned to her response, both verbal and nonverbal. Is she reciprocating your touch? Does she seem into it, or does she tense up or pull away?
Right. Because even in a committed relationship, there can be moments when one partner might not be in the mood for a certain type of touch, and that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely. Everyone has their own individual preferences and sensitivities, and those can change from day to day, even moment to moment. The key is to be sensitive to those nuances, to be willing to adjust your approach, and to always prioritize her comfort and pleasure over your own desires.
So even when you're in a relationship, it's still important to pay attention to those signals to have that ongoing dialogue of consent, even if it's just a subtle glance or a slight shift in body language.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about creating a safe space for both partners to express their desires and boundaries, knowing that they can say no at any time without fear of judgment or rejection. That's the foundation of a truly healthy and fulfilling intimate relationship.
Now let's talk about another aspect of physical intimacy that can be a little bit tricky to navigate even in a relationship: public displays of affection.
Mm.
What's the etiquette when it comes to, say, touching your girlfriend's behind in public? Is it ever appropriate?
That's a great question, and one that really depends on context, cultural norms, and most importantly, your girlfriend's comfort level.
Right.
What might be perfectly acceptable at a concert or a music festival might be completely inappropriate at a family dinner or a work event.
Right. It's about reading the room, being aware of your surroundings, and making sure your actions aren't making anyone uncomfortable, especially your girlfriend.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, just ask. A
Hmm.
simple, is this okay? Can go a long way in ensuring that you're both on the same page and that your actions are coming from a place of respect and consideration.
Communication is key. Now, let's dive into a slightly more uh, adventurous territory. What about spanking? I know it can be a little bit of a taboo topic, but it's something that some couples enjoy incorporating into their intimate lives. How do you navigate that in a healthy and respectful way?
I think spanking, like any other intimate act, requires clear and enthusiastic consent from both partners.
Right.
It's not about one person dictating what happens. It's about mutual exploration, open communication, and respecting each other's boundaries and limits.
So it's important to have those conversations beforehand to establish what feels good for both of you and to create a safe space where you can experiment and explore without fear of judgment or pressure.
Absolutely. And even when you've established that mutual consent, it's still crucial to communicate throughout the experience. Start slowly, pay attention to her reactions, both verbal and nonverbal, and make sure she's enjoying it. If she says no or seems uncomfortable, stop immediately.
This has been such an insightful conversation, Sophie. We've covered so much ground today, from the basics of building rapport to the complexities of navigating intimate touch in different relationship stages. Is there one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that physical intimacy in all its forms should always be approached with respect, awareness, and open communication. When you prioritize those principles, you create a foundation for a truly connected and fulfilling experience for both partners.
Couldn't have said it better myself. A huge thank you to our amazing expert, Sophie Kanaka, for sharing her wisdom and insights with us today.
It was my pleasure, Alex.
And to all our awesome love hackers out there, thank you for tuning in. I'm Alex Carter.
And I'm Sophie Tanaka.
This is Love Hackers, your daily dose of dating advice. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with your friends. We'll be back tomorrow with another juicy topic to help you navigate the wild world of love and relationships. Until then, happy dating.